What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to the Crypto Kindness channel for a reunion stream, if you will, with Jake Sharpe, now the founder of a new product coming out, TitanX, that we're here to learn about today. But first and foremost, it's good to be back. I think I did a stream about a month ago with Jack Levin. Prior to that, I hadn't done anything in about 2 months. It was summer in Michigan, and there's nothing to talk about. So but fall's here and we're getting closer. We're ticking up closer and closer to that Bitcoin halving. So crypto might get exciting here. And what better time than the present to start talking about a new project and with somebody that has been on the channel many, many times, who I have learned a lot from. Jake, welcome back. How are you?
I'm doing good, man. We both disappeared from streaming for like 4 months.
Dude, the sun's out. You got to get outside and have a good time. And I know you're in Europe somewhere and I'm in Michigan. We just don't get enough of that. So it's like, yeah, no need to sit in front of a computer for a couple of months.
Well, I definitely have not seen the sun in 4 months. This has been pretty much my world.
So you spent this time building.
Pretty much.
Yeah. I heard you say yesterday on your stream with the verse that you've been working on this for 2 years, but just had some like moments of clarity. I think Zen helped you out a lot and some of the things you learned from the pulse chain sacrifice. And then you just like, this is it. I know what I'm going to do. And then you dove in. Tell us kind of how that panned out.
Pretty much. So I've been in crypto since end of 2016. Didn't really take it serious until the 2020 bull run. Like end of 2019 is when I really took it serious. And I've always been very obsessed with game theory and figuring out what has the highest potential of getting the most people in and what has the potential of being a great store of value. And one of the things that always annoyed me, and this is another thing I mentioned on the Verse stream, is with the pulse chain sacrifice, I came to this conclusion of like, okay, and a lot of people said it during the time, like, why is Pulse Hex a different coin, and why does the buy and burn fees not just go towards Hex? Lockup mechanism, and then all the buy and burn will make it deflationary over time. That would be the absolute perfect crypto game over. But he didn't. And I was like, why is everything, like all these good tokenomics exist on individual cryptos? Why is this not M1? And this has been in the works for, I wouldn't say works, but it's been an idea for 2 years. I've been talking to it with my friends and stuff like that. But even 2 years ago, I knew, hey, this is the top of the market. Launching it now will be incredibly stupid. So we're going to have to wait anyway. So I started keeping track of all the tokenomics. I have an entire like Google sheet, like a Google document, of all the tokenomics I've seen across everything, not just the ones that we talk about publicly, but just any kind of crypto. And there's been a hell of a lot of innovation in this space. Like, for example, the PulseX buy and burn, they're not the only one to have a buy and burn. There's actually a lot of tokenomics innovation happening inside of crypto.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a document of all of it, and I'm like, okay, this project has good tokenomics, but then it has this bad elements of it. This one has good, bad, good, bad, good, bad. What if somebody just came along, removed all of the bad, and kept all the good, and made it fair, and not a VC enrichment scheme?
Sure. I mean, all of those are great points. Like it's easy. I heard somebody say yesterday a great quote that every book you read today is a culmination of all of the books that came before it. And that is true with any innovation. We build on the shoulders of giants. And what you just said there of seeing, you've kept track of tokenomics, you've watched how a lot of these other projects have played out. And so you're building based on what you saw there. And so I'm excited to get into that. The one thing I want to share with the people that are here, first and foremost, welcome back. It's awesome to see some of the names in chat here. And a lot of people have been reaching out DMs and texts saying, hey, welcome back. Great to see you and appreciate all that. I want to give a lot of credit to the Verse. You did a stream with him yesterday, and he did a fantastic job of asking you questions, detailed questions, kind of tech-related questions surrounding the white paper and some of the tokenomics. For those of you that are, either listening now or going to listen in the future, I will post a link in the video description to that interview. And I would encourage you to watch it, because what I'm going to be talking about today is really going to be building on that conversation yesterday. I'm going to do a little bit more of a quick overview with Jake. And then if you really want those deep details, I would encourage you to just go watch that stream, because he did it better than I can do it. I'm going to ask more of the questions that I think a lot of people want to know, not necessarily related to the white paper, but just timing and different types of analysis and Moon Boy stuff. And when I mean Moon Boy stuff, not Moon Boy stuff. So we're really going to get into it. And of course, I will be keeping my eye on the chat for any questions that might come in as well. I did post in the chat a link to the white paper. First thing I'd like to say is this is a very well written white paper. I appreciate how clean it is, how easy it is to read. It tells you everything you need to know without getting way too complicated, which is good. Because if it gets complicated, you lost me. So with that, let's just dive in real quick. I'm sure you've done this before. Can you give us a brief 1-minute summary of what TitanX is, what the fundamentals are, and like why would somebody take their risk on this project?
Yep. So I'm still working out this messaging on like how to make it simple. It'll come to repetition, but basically TitanX, there's a couple big problems we try to solve. So in the 2020 bull market, there was a lot of fake DeFi. And as the world kind of progresses and with the CBDCs on the horizon, stuff like that, the only reason crypto still keeps on existing is because of censorship resistance. And that also means censorship resistance against founders. So what you see with a lot of projects is they have admin keys. The code is not immutable, it's upgradable. So they can choose to completely rug it if they want to. And you see rug pulls all day long, every day, even in the bear market. So people are actually looking for... One of the things I started realizing is these cryptos in general, the community is so important because every crypto is like its own little country. Like the US is different from, Germany is different from UAE, is different from, etc. And I feel like every single cryptocurrency is its own kind of country with different economic principles, etc., etc. And TitanX actually came to be because I was tired. And for the people that have followed my streams for a long time, I was just tired of VC stuff, man. And sacrifices are just a glorified form of VC. And that's one of the things I noticed, and this comes with learning over time, is most of these sacrifice projects actually don't end up performing well because it doesn't work. Like these pre-sale sacrifices, they don't work. They enrich the founders, but then the community is left pretty much holding nothing, and everything else pretty much going to outperform it. And then you had coins like Pepe come around. I'm not sure if Pepe had a pre-sale or whatever, but if you look at the chart, it looks relatively fairly launched, and then whatever the founders bought in the market or whatever they did, but it was fairly launched. Mm-hmm. And that was one of the biggest storms that happened in this bear market, where it did like 100,000x in a very short period of time. And it was some ridiculous number. And I keep seeing a lot of smart crypto heads that are not these like pump and dump influencers talking about, hey, the next wave of the bull run is going to be fair launch tokens. People are tired of VCs, people are tired of pre-sales, people are tired of founders running away with sacrifice money or whatever it is. But then TitanX kind of came to be because I wanted to put all of the best tokenomics under one roof.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing in crypto that any founder should try to solve for is liquidity and buy pressure. Everything else is just kind of a meme and a narrative to get people to buy or to get people to provide liquidity. Why not just directly programmatically do that so that the token scales as the network grows? The liquidity pool gets bigger, there's more supply coming out, etc., etc. And so TitanX is basically fair launched with three core tokenomics. One is it's a mineable cryptocurrency. You don't have to use GPUs or hardware or whatever. You just eat plus time. You go to the dApp, click create miner, and you wait until the end of your miner to get your tokens. Mm-hmm. And the amount you get every day goes down. So it's controlled inflation, and it scales based on the initial user base. So there's staking elements inside of Titan. The core design of Titan is actually to become a base layer. So not a layer one like Ethereum, but a base layer where other projects can actually come to Titan, and through the proof of burn function, they can actually build their stuff to support Titan, and that way adopt a well-funded DeFi native style community. So the big thing is you have staking, and the other big thing is you have buy and burn. So the supply comes into existence by people starting miners. To start miners, people pay Ethereum. That Ethereum gets split up in 4 different ways. 62% goes towards this thing called the buy and burn. This is a separate smart contract that is completely decentralized, no admin keys, no way to rug the liquidity or whatever. So it's decentralized and owned by the market. So 62% of that Ethereum goes towards the buy and burn.
Now,
this is massive.
Question, if I can throw that is massive. Mm-hmm. The buy and burn, is the burn a true burn? Goes to a null address, no one has access to, it's gone.
Correct. Yep. So what the buy and burn does is it buys TitanX off the market through the wrapped Ethereum TitanX pair on Uniswap v3. And then whatever number of TitanX it buys, it directly burns. So sends it to the null address pretty much. So nobody owns that. So it pushes the price chart up, making everybody's miners more profitable. So the buy and burn is a big feature. Second big feature is staking. A big reason Hex did a 10,000x is there's two big reasons, and the first actually kind of mentioned this. One is, it's staking. A lot of the supply was locked up to earn staking awards, which means they can dump on the market so that when people, big whales, buy on market, the price stays there because nobody can dump it down or reverse the pump. So staking elements, one of the things that we solved with the Hex style staking element, the issue with Hex is when you stake, you earn more Hex. So if somebody wants to realize their staking gains, they have to sell their Hex and dump down the price. And there's a lot of big stakers in Hex that got the big payday payouts, and that's a big reason why it went down minus 99% on the eHex.
And the entire time, those people's position never got smaller. They just sold the interest.
Yep, exactly.
It's a never-ending game.
Yep. So with TitanX, we actually solved it. You don't earn rewards in TitanX, so it doesn't inflate from stakers. You actually earn Ethereum. So you can dump Ethereum all you want. It won't hurt the TitanX price. If anything, it could actually be a net positive, where people actually use their staking rewards to go back into TitanX and support the protocol.
Okay.
So staking is a big one. Buy and burn is a big one. And third big one is there's constant supply reduction happening. So it becomes scarcer and scarcer over time. And then we have the proof of burn function. And if my model is correct, TitanX should become deflationary, even with all of the miners, roughly 700 days in. That's like a quick rundown. I'm still working on the polished, clean message. That's basically high level.
So what I heard in just to compare it to some things other people might know, excuse me. It sounds like a mixture of the PulseX buy and burn, which is very attractive, and it has a continuous funded means by which to buy and burn, which is trading fees. A little bit different with TitanX. We'll get into that. Like a reflection token similar to DXN with Zen, because you're burning something else for the price to go up, and you're getting paid in ETH, not the actual native token, as well as staking. Staking being with Hex, something similar to Hex or any of the other number of different staking platforms out there. All of those have had success in some way. All of those have also had challenges in some ways. And those are questions that I'll get into a little bit later. I still want to focus on some of the details surrounding TitanX, and then I'll get into my questions that are outside of those. But is that correct? Is that kind of the three elements that are in it? A little bit of a reflection like a DXN. You got the buy and burn, something similar to PulseX, and then you got the benefits of staking for long-term holders.
Yep. One of the big issues I set out to solve with Titan was we've all had it. You get excited about a crypto, you onboard your family in, and then they get wrecked and ended up buying the top. That makes me feel absolutely horrible. So with mining, you actually create a way where everybody can get fairly can get into something in a way where they don't buy the top of somebody else and become exit liquidity for the earlier people. The only way to do that.
What you just said there is very important. Tell us how it's different.
Because you can mine. So you have two options with TitanX. You can buy it off of market on Uniswap, or you can actually mine it. If you mine it, you have to wait until the end of your miner turn to actually get your tokens. So there's a waiting element to it. But if you're impatient and you just want to trade, you can also buy on market, which is totally fine. But that way you can actually onboard people in, and it's just a fair distribution of the initial supply of TitanX, because after a while, so it starts at 8.8 million a day if you include the early adoption bonus, 8.8 million a day per miner, like per day per miner, and then it moves down 0.35% a day. So just to show how absolutely insane this is it starts at 8.8 million a day, and if you do a max to earn miner, which is 280 days, at the end of those 280 days, if you wanted to do a new miner, you start at 3.5 million a day, not 8.8 million a day. So it's a constant reduction of the supply. But if you get people in through mining, they're essentially getting in at the price floor. So it's a very fair launch, and people can onboard people without the risk of them becoming extra liquidity for the early people. That's a big issue I wanted to solve. Because my dad got into PulseX, and then the SEC thing happened, and I was like, I fucking hate this. God damn it. And I was like, okay, how can I solve this? And I feel very confident that I found a solution.
That's fantastic. I mean, you're absolutely right. I've onboarded family and friends, and I basically have come to the conclusion that I won't do that again. Because they're not, I mean, it's just like, they're not as involved as I am. They're looking to me for the answer. And then when something happens, I'm like, oh, it's no big deal. This has happened yet, et cetera. And they're like, yeah, but the price is down 99%. It's kind of a big deal. I'm like, oh, crap. You're right. So that's interesting. So I want to start with this question, however. The fair launch. We've seen fair launch with Zen and several other of the projects that were built on Zen, and we're seeing others starting to do that, because you're right. The one big talking, I don't want to say talking head, the guy's really smart, but Ivan on Tech has said over and over again that the future will probably be fair launch tokens that don't have VC, that don't have anything. And I'm going to make this statement based on our place in time today, not the future. I understand that it hasn't happened yet being the big mark, but the fair launch idea has not shown to be economically positive, if you will. Early minters of Zen are still above water, but by like $1, because the price keeps draining out. The fair launch, as there is hyperinflation happening during this period of time. So how is it different with Titan, or is it different? I mean, because it is going to be a hyperinflationary at the beginning. And so those that, mint today and don't claim it for 280 days or 400 days, whatever have you, the price could be significantly lower at that time. So does fair launch also equal price go up?
Yes, if there's buy pressure and liquidity scaling with the amount of people getting in. That's the big thing, because if you kind of think about it, it's crazy that Zen is not at zero, because it's kind of crazy. And this is why I felt so confident with this fair launch thing, because Zen had a massive thing missing, which is liquidity. Because even, like, for example, VMPX, the people that minted VMPX, $7 million went to actually creating that thing and bringing it into existence, and there's currently $15,000 of Ethereum sitting in the liquidity pool. So 7 million went in, and there's $15,000 supporting that entire 7 million. That sucks.
That's crazy.
And that's exactly, and that's because it's all economic waste. All of Jack's designs are pretty much, hey, let's get everybody to spend as much as possible on gas and let it not support the protocol, just enrich the Ethereum validators. So TitanX set out to solve that by making sure that pretty much all of the Ethereum that gets spent goes towards strengthening the protocol as it grows. So liquidity is massive, because if you have a big enough liquidity pool, even if a big miner starts to dump, they shouldn't impact the price that much.
Okay.
Which is because so when so let's say, for example, 1,000 Ethereum starts miners, like across all users, 1,000 Ethereum comes in. 62% of that goes towards buy and burn. Mm-hmm. That's 62%, so 620 Ethereum. When the buy and burn buys, it puts Ethereum into the pool and it takes TitanX out, because that's how, when you swap on Uniswap, you put Ethereum in the pool and you get the other token on the other side.
Yeah.
So the Ethereum, the sell side, grows as the buy and burn buys. So the liquidity pool on the Ethereum side gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And then at the same time, because of the fair launch, the TitanX side also gets bigger and bigger. But it creates a scenario where there's more Ethereum in the pool than there is TitanX. So there's more support to the downside than there is resistance on the upside. So the liquidity pool is the absolute key to any crypto ever, and especially if it's operating on a DEX. So this is different. I'm actually surprised that early Zen minters are still in profit, and that's because the GUI is going down.
Yeah.
But there's no buy and burn whatsoever, and early minters were still in profit, like a 2x or whatever. That's crazy to me.
It is crazy.
I think this might be something insane with TitanX.
So, okay, I'm going to pop open the white paper here just to touch on a quick few points, and then I really want to get into the core of my discussion, because you brought up a lot of things there that I really want to dive into. But I do think it's important for anybody that maybe hasn't looked at the white paper or listened to some of your other streams to at least get these kind of fundamentals down. Like, okay, this is what it is. This is how I can, maybe I want to look into it. Maybe I don't, just based on this information, and then go on from there. So let me share my screen and see if I can even remember how to do this. All right. We seeing this?
Yep.
Okay, right on. So first of all, like I said, very clean white paper, very easy to follow and read. Well done on that. Let me see what I'm showing. Okay, perfect. You have your tabs over here. It goes over the virtual mining. You talk about the mining. Now, there's a couple questions I have in here that we'll get into. You got single miners, batch miners, mining ladder. I actually really like this detail. So you can have the smart contract build out your own mining ladder for you, so you don't have to make individual transactions. Is that correct?
Correct. So you have single mining, which allows you to create a single miner. You have batch mining, so let's say you can batch mine up to 100 miners at a time. This does not create one big batch miner, it creates 100 single miners. So it basically saves you the hassle of having to create 100 transactions. It does it all in one big transaction, but it creates 100 miners for you, saving you a crap ton of time. So you don't have to sit behind the keyboard and click like a monkey. Yeah, so that's a big time saver. And then a mining ladder, the smart contract will essentially, there's a couple of variables you can play with. The minimum days, the maximum days, the day intervals, and the amount of miners you want per day interval. So you could, for example, have, okay, minimum day is 100. I want to start all of my miners at starting at day 100. And then you could be like, okay, day interval is 10. So it will create, and then you have miners per interval. So for example, if you have 2 miners per interval and 10 day intervals, it will create 2 miners on day 100, 2 miners at day 110, 2 miners at day 120. So this will automatically create people's mining ladders up to 100 miners at a time, because roughly that fills half of a block if you do the mining ladder stuff.
I like that idea. I thought that was a really good addition to the mining game, or the minting game, whatever people are calling it. Quick question surrounding early adoption amplifier. Why did you extend it out so long? We've seen in other adoption amplifiers that they tend to be a shorter period of time to encourage people to get in. This is a little bit different. I'm just curious about that.
I just like it. 350 days is a good enough period of time, because you want to see something hit critical mass when it comes to community, and you want to kind of make it hit. It's called this golden referral ratio, where if you get one person in, that person talks to 1.5 people, and then you get this exponential network effect. Yeah. That takes time. So you want to make sure that the early adoption amplifier is not only for us turbo geeks who are on YouTube all day long. You want to make sure it's also for the newer people coming in. So this 10% actually reduces every day. So it's 10%, and then reduces up to 0% at 350 days. And 350 days is kind of what I've seen where crypto starts getting its own life, where you don't need that much force to push it, because the community is the biggest promotion element. Okay. Yeah.
No, I like that. There's 2 ways to look at it. The way I proposed the question was, why not make it shorter to benefit those that get in early? But the long-term benefit is that somebody that finds this 60, 90, 200 days out doesn't feel like they missed the boat. And yep. That's an important thing. A lot of people, especially those that are still here in the bear market. I mean, the people that are going to come in a year when things are going crazy, assuming that the cycle plays out the same, aren't going to care about any of this. But the people that are here today understand the value of getting in early. And if you make it such that, the time period of early, quote unquote, is only 20 days or 60 days or something like that, you could miss out on a lot of people that just haven't learned about it yet. So I do like that. Thank you for letting me know. The staking, I'm starting to walk through this. You got mining ETH distribution. This is where it talks about the distributions of buy and burns, payouts to stakers, the buy and burn, or the burn pool, Genesis wallet. I'll ask about this later. And then I'm going to touch on staking. So tell me about the rolling payout cycle. So you're not earning every day. You're earning based on your share of the pool on the day of the payout. Is that correct?
That's a beautiful way of putting it. Yes. So the reason we did it that way is, one of the things that you notice is a big downfall with staking protocols is what happens a lot. If people in these staking protocols, they stake for a day, and then they just get their staking payouts and they unstake and dump it, which sucks for the entire community. So by doing it in payout cycles, you actually make it so that, for example, we did the 2 long rolling payouts, like 369 and 888 days, because it's a carrot to keep everybody in the community, because everybody's looking at this big event. For example, Hex had the big payday.
Yep.
And the big payday for us is kind of going to be that 888 and 369 pool. So people are going to stick around because they want to be part of that pool. So you don't want to front load all the staking rewards because people start thinking very short term, and the only reason a crypto survives is because you have more long term thinkers and short term thinkers. So this is kind of to get people to focus on the long term, which is why we did it in cycles instead of front loading all of it.
Okay. The next thing in here, though, it shows that 28% of the available ETH goes to the 8-day rolling payout, whereas less goes to the 369 and the 888. So it's less of a payout for the longer stakes.
Well, actually, it pays more because, for example, the 8-day rolling payout, that's 28% that builds up for 8 days and then pays out, builds up for 8 days and then pays out.
Okay.
But the other ones, the 369 one, it builds up 18% over 369 days. So it actually ends up being way bigger. Yeah, so it builds up over time.
Thank you for clarifying that. I like that.
So those are going to be the biggest by far.
I see. So where the 8-day is continuously refreshing, while it's a larger percentage, it's starting from zero every time, whereas the 18% is basically compounding over time.
Yep.
Fantastic.
Yes, and that also means that later people that come in later can actually benefit from all the Ethereum that went in at the start.
Gotcha. Yeah, exactly.
So all people benefit from the early people.
Okay, say that again. I think that's a really big detail.
So basically, but all of the Ethereum gets split up into these bigger pools as well. So new people coming in can actually benefit from all the early people getting in because all of their Ethereum gets stored in this pool until the payout day.
And then it's just a game of who can wait the longest.
Yep.
That's a big detail. Thank you for sharing that. I'm going to make sure I'm not missing anything in the chat as I look at the screen because I'm on a different page. Okay, there's some good questions here, but we'll get back to them. And then the other thing, let's see, this talks about shares and penalties. I like what you've done with the penalties. I'm not going to go into the details here because people can read that stuff. You also discussed that on your stream with the verse, which again, I will put a link in the video description below to that because I think that was a great stream. Hope he's listening and can hear the fact that I'm saying he did a great job. It is what it is. So burning. Early on, why would I burn Titan?
Yes.
I see here, I've heard you talk about something called Hyper. You just mentioned it's a base protocol that people can build on. Is there any reason for me to burn Titan in the first month to 2 months?
No. So what will happen with the burn pool? The burn pool is disabled until Hyper goes live. So actually, it's a lot more than 62% buy and burn. That 7% actually gets redirected to the buy and burn. So at the start, it's actually 69% buy and burn until Hyper launches and the burn pool activates. And then people can start burning for Hyper.
So it's 69% essentially until this goes live. What happens if somebody else builds a protocol on top of Titan before Hyper goes live?
It's going to enable after Hyper. I think we're going to be the first ones to do it because if you look at Zen, builders started coming in roughly 6 months in. Because they want to make sure that the community is mature, it's actually worth it doing it, the community is growing. So it also has to be like a net positive for them to spend all of their time and money building something.
Perfect. Okay. Down here, one other thing that I wanted to touch on that I thought was pretty neat, I'd like to hear you discuss a little bit. Straight away, it says, we believe in capitalism and meritocracy. Meritocracy is a great word, by the way. This is giving essentially kickbacks, for lack of better words, I don't want to say kickbacks. That sounds bad. This is incentivizing people to build on top of Titan. And it's incentivizing in a way that builders have access to the funds in the, is it the burn pool or where do the funds come from that incentivize builders?
So if you go to Proof of Burn 2.0,
okay,
the section, and scroll down a little bit, there's this thing called their builder reward. So the reason I say I believe in capitalism and meritocracy is if you look at Zen, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with Zen. We just set out to solve problems and we see problems and we solve them. But Zen seems to attract hobbyist type people. Okay, so imagine this is the best way to explain it. For some reason, the Zen community values themselves and not rewarding developers. Imagine this. I come up to you and I'm like, hey, I have this protocol right here. If you want, you can build for it. You're probably going to spend 6 months of your life building it, probably like 30, 50 grand in audits, making sure it's good. And you won't get paid for it. In fact, if you make a single dime, the entire community is going to shame you and laugh at you. You're going to be like, hey, this is a very bad deal. What the hell are you If I'm going to dedicate my life to building something, I should get, some kind of reward for doing it. So the reason capitalism and meritocracy are two big words is meritocracy basically means that the cream of the crop should get rewarded the most. And capitalism means that if you provide a lot of value to an ecosystem, you should get a lot of value in return. And if you're the best one, you should get the most value out of everybody. So the builder reward, essentially, let's say you build a protocol on top of TitanX, you can specify a builder reward from 0 to 8%. If you do 8%, for example, if your protocol burns 1 trillion TitanX, you can get up to 8% of all the TitanX burned. So 92% still burns, but 8% will go towards the developer. So they actually have income from the thing that they're building and promoting. Because another setback that you get from expecting devs to do stuff for free is you get a Jack Levin type effect where, hey, they don't get any money from staying around for the old thing, so they start building the new thing. The incentives have to be aligned for people to stick around, and the only way to do that is to make sure that they get paid for sticking around.
Yeah, that's important. One of the things that Jack Levin mentioned about the XN blockchain that is very bullish if it comes to fruition is that the developers will get a portion of the fees burned on the chain. And that sounds kind of similar to what's happening here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep. That's actually great idea. I'm excited for X1. I just want to see it go live,
Exactly. I just want to know that it's happening. So the one question I had about the if the buy and burn is burning to a true null address that no one has access to, where are the funds coming from to reward the developers?
That's from the TitanX burned. So, for example, DB Zen. People burn their Zen for DB Zen, so a portion of that Zen in this example would go towards the DB Zen team in a wallet that they specify.
Okay, so that is...
So they get TitanX, not Ethereum.
I see. So that isn't funded from the buy and burn. That's funded from the different burn pool when people burn.
No, it comes from you. So let's say, for example, you burn 100 billion TitanX for hype, for example. Well, it's based on that 100 billion. Whatever amount is burned, 8% of that goes to a developer specified wallet at a developer specified percentage.
So the very the direct question is, it is a different pool for the burn rewards that go to developers than the
well, there's no pool. There's no pool because when a user burns, it's their TitanX going to a developer, their percentage of the builder reward.
Sure. So let me ask the question again. So the buy and burn function, the 62% ETH from the protocol fee, is buying it off the market, TitanX, and burning it to an address that no one has access to. Those TitanX tokens that are burned from the buy and burn protocol don't end up in the rewards.
Oh, no. You're confusing two things. So the buy and burn is something completely separate. This is only for protocols, like the 8% builder reward that they can specify up to 8%. They can also do 3% if they want. That goes directly to the project. So this comes from project burning, not the buy and burn.
Okay, perfect. That's exactly.
So like the DP Zen team, for example.
Sure. The Zen was the Titan will be specifically burned for something else, and then that burn will go towards the developers. I gotcha.
And the Titan, I guess, burn comes from users participating in that project.
Okay. All right. Thank you for clarifying those things. Again, I think the white paper is just so easy to read and straightforward. I really appreciate the time spent to make that clear. So now here's the questions I have. I got a lot of questions, and this is where I'm going to start peppering in some questions from the audience too. Let's see. Okay, I already asked you the fair mint token. So there's something called the law of unintended consequences, which is you come up with this great strategy and everything is perfect, but you never know how it's going to play out in the real world. Unintended consequences. Yep. And I've been thinking through some of the challenges I could see with the TitanX model and how the law of unintended consequences might affect it. So these are the questions that I have. And this is going to be kind of all over the place. The first question, just straight away, is more to do with the launch timing. So October 28th is your targeted date.
Yep, before end of month.
Okay, well, more specific. I gave a very specific date, but sorry, before the end.
I like that date.
Yeah, I don't know why I picked that date. Well, 2 and 8. I know you're big on the numbers.
Exactly.
So why not wait until we have a bull market confirmation?
Well, the bull market is already here.
If you're in Pulse Chain and Teddy Bear, yes, but I feel like everywhere else, people are just still like, oh, another shoe's going to drop. You know, Bitcoin just did a head and shoulders and is potentially going to drop. Yes, I agree, but not in these, not in the sense that there's green candles everywhere. I just the overall sentiment in a lot of the groups that I'm in is a sentiment of hesitancy. Like, I feel like we're there, but I'm not sure yet. So my question is, why not wait until like December when, if the market plays out and we've started to see green candles, people are feeling a little bit more at ease and then might be more likely or willing to go in. Why not wait just a little longer?
Yep. So November 2022 was the bottom. So I called the Bitcoin bottom on the day. People can actually verify it on my YouTube channel 2 months in advance. What happens is you put in the bottom, which was November 2022. Then you go sideways for a year, which is until November this year. So next month. The sideways year ends. And then we get very, very close to the Bitcoin halving, which happens in April.
Mm-hmm.
What usually happens is you put the sideways year behind you, which is November. Then you start linearly going up. Nothing too big, but like you linearly start going up.
Right.
Until the Bitcoin halving. Then maybe you get one small scare dip, and then you're off to the race, and it's a full-blown bull market. Launching now is actually perfect because the initial supply of people, you want it to be diehard crypto people that understand cycles and are around during a bear market. If you launch during a bull market, you get bull market retail people that are just in it for the short term. If you launch during a period like this, you get diehard people holding the initial supply, and those are the exact people you want to give the initial supply to. So by launching now, you actually build the strongest grassroots community because these are bear market people. You know, we're diehard crypto at this point.
Yeah.
So it's actually good.
Those diehard people have been bludgeoned to death by the bear market.
Yes.
You know, anybody that in sacrifice for Pulse Chain and Pulse X is down. A lot of people burned a lot of ETH with Zen and DXN. And are you concerned at all that people are just a little bit more tight-fist with their ETH right now, and they're like, you know, I don't necessarily want to play another fair launch game?
Not really. I see a lot of things launch that get a lot of volume. So maybe in this community, like the whole Pulse Chain, Pulse X, because of the SEC and everything, is different. But we're not going after those people. It just so happens to be the initial community because how I kind of got started and how people got to know me.
Mm-hmm.
But we're targeting Ethereum. And Ethereum still has close to $1 billion a day of volume. So that's a lot of volume. There's still a lot of money sloshing around.
Yeah, that is a very good point. And even in the depths of the bear market back in May, Pepe did a tremendous run. So people chase green candles. So, and we'll get to the green candles in a second. We already talked about the Fair Token Mint, which has struggled to show economic return to date, but that's where I said "yet" is the exclamation point on that statement. There seems to be a lot of code in this. It's not a straightforward. You've got minting ladders, batch minting, single minting. You've got a smart contract that's doing a buy and burn. That's distributing payouts to multiple different days and multiple different areas. More code, more room for error, as Richard Hart likes to say, more attack vectors. Tell us about your audits, and specifically, did the first audits come up with any issues that needed to be addressed? You know, just from a security standpoint, where does TitanX stand?
It's just a lot of line of code. Like we tried to make it.
I can imagine.
Yeah, it's over, I think, 3,000 lines of code. It's a lot. So I also paid a lot for audits because it's such a large code-based audit. Essentially, the first auditor was a top 10 Code Arena auditor. His name is Akshay. And you can actually see he's the top 10 2023 Code Arena auditor. And Code Arena is basically, and there's a reason we worked with individual auditors instead of a firm. CertiK really isn't that credible anymore. Like half of their protocols, they audit, get rug pulled at this point. So CertiK people like the brand name, but it's really not good. So I used to be a lead software engineer, so I used to run dev teams. And I know how to work with these people. I can read code myself, I can write code myself. And I wrote the dApp myself, so people, hey, they can see I'm an actual engineer. They'll be like, oh shit, this dApp is really good. I'm like, yeah, I made it. So I'm not an armchair developer. So basically, the top 10 Code Arena audited the smart contract first. He found 2 or 3 critical severities. One of them was to do with burning. So there's some very interesting code with Titan where you can burn miners, you can burn stakes, or you can burn liquid. So you can burn everything pretty much. And we did that for future proofing in case we want to build a protocol around burning future supply. There was some stuff going on with the ERC20 approvals, so that got solved. So we got the first audit back. We solved all of the issues. He does a final review, make sure there's no, how do you say it? No errors that came up from the fixes that we implemented off of the initial report. So we fixed that. Then we also have a second auditor. He started so he started on the 8th of October, so 4 days ago. So 4 days ago, second auditor started. Because like Trayvon said, you want to have an auditor that audits the auditor.
Yeah.
You know? And this is another thing people don't get. When you work with firms like Certic, there's a very high chance you get some kind of junior auditor, but it's a second smart contract that you ever audited. Yeah, yes, you're working with Certic, but there's people like reviewing the code, and these people could be juniors for all you know. So I like Code Arena because it exactly shows what vulnerabilities they found and what protocol, because it's public competition audit. So it's like a protocol comes there, they put their code base up there, and then they have 1,000 auditors all around the world competing to find bugs in the protocol. And the people that find the biggest bugs, the fastest get points on their profile. And then they get ranked worldwide as the best auditors. And this guy is a top 10 auditor. And he found critical severity bugs in Chainlink, Arbitrum, all these protocols use Code Arena. So I like that because it's verifiable. It's not like, hey, I'm a good auditor. It's like, hey, this is exactly what I did, competing with 1,000 other auditors. And you can see it and verify it. So I like Code Arena for that. So that was the first auditor.
It's called Code Arena?
Code Arena, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, ENS, like Ethereum name service, also did their audits there and stuff.
Wow, I've not heard of that. Have you considered putting out any sort of, I mean, it sounds similar to this, but I've heard of protocols doing like a hackathon, like put out a bounty of some sort and release it to, and I wouldn't even know where you do that, honestly, but I've heard of it. So it's just intriguing to me. Put it out and see if people can hack it.
You can, that only works really with live protocols, because if you do it before, when it's just a code base that is not deployed, it's basically considered an audit or a penetration test. Once it's live, that's when you kind of get into bug bounties. The issue with TitanX, it's immutable code, meaning we can't change it. So even if there's a bug that's found, you're kind of stuck because it's immutable, which is exactly what we want. So therefore, we front-loaded a lot. We did a lot of security, safety patterns. Like, for example, the contract never asks you for approval for your Ethereum. You basically send your Ethereum into the contract so that if the contract gets compromised in some way, they can't access the funds in your wallet. There's a lot of these kind of security safety patterns that we followed. And then the first auditor, we fixed everything there. Now we're going on to a second auditor. He's auditing the auditor, seeing if he can find any bugs. And he also has, he's flat plus pay per vulnerability. So if he finds any vulnerability, we'll pay him extra. So he's very well incentivized to try to hack it. Yeah. Okay. The thing with smart contracts is, and a lot of smart contract auditors will say this, perfect code doesn't exist. The only thing you can really find is critical severities where you can actually have loss of funds by users. Those are the biggest ones to solve. But then you can have like off by one errors or like small math errors that don't actually end up by people losing money, etc., etc. No protocol is actually perfect.
Sure.
We're trying to do our best with 2 audits, potentially even a third. But yeah, once it's live, it's immutable, which is exactly what we want.
Okay. That was a good answer. I like that one. So the big question I have goes to the participation. So the buy and burn is the big attractive thing. I mean, just like it was with PulseX, is like the buy and burn. The big, what is it? Big berry buyer. There's just always somebody buying. There's always money coming in. But that money is funded from people minting. And so my concern is, as we've seen with Zen, as we saw with DXN, and we've seen with many other reflection tokens. They're great for the first month to 8 months, but then, if no new people come in and mint, then that fund is no longer funded and the buy and burn slows down. And specifically, my question goes to the, and maybe I should bring it up in the white paper. Let me see if I can find it. The daily update. So the chart here, I'm going to bring this up. The chart that shows the cost per Titan max miner. So the cost to do a max mine on Titan goes up over, what is this, 4 years, 5 years, 2,000 days. So early on, the cost is going up every day. And it's going to get to a point of essentially diminishing returns, where if Ethereum goes up to 5-6 grand, maybe 10 grand, some people are saying, and it's costing a half of an ETH to do a miner here, you're talking 5 grand to do a miner, it becomes cost prohibitive, assuming that the cost to mine is more than the cost that Titan is worth. And we don't know that until it gets out there. But this is my non-Moonboy questions.
Yep.
So if the cost to produce gets outside of the range of the majority, half an ETH to produce something 280 days away becomes less attractive in the bear market or bull market, when everything is going up 20% on a daily basis, then that buy and burn pool doesn't have the funds to continue to buy and burn. Yep. So the narrative potentially disappears after a certain period of time. And if you want to see what that looks like in hyperspeed, look at the DXN chart. That's exactly what happened. So walk me through why you think this is different. I mean, that's my biggest concern is I think, everything I've read so far, the first 90 to 365 days of this looks fantastic. It's after that. It's in that period of half a year to a year and a half where if people stop mining, then there's no money to be doing the buy and burn, and the green candles slow down. So walk me through that.
Yeah, what if I said we had a solution for that?
Well,
there's a lot of
tricks
up my sleeve. Basically, then it just becomes a token that people buy, and then they buy up the price, and then the moment it becomes profitable, miners kick in. So with Titan, you're going to be able to see on the UI how much it costs to create a miner and how much your end value is on miner based on how much TitanX you get at the end of your miner times current market price. To get that to a point where it is not profitable is extremely hard. Extremely hard, because look at how long it took for Zen with zero buy and burn, zero liquidity, zero nothing to run break even on max miner. It took a year. And this is without any liquidity and all of the money going to waste. Even DBZen, as an example, all of that Ethereum goes back to stakers. There's no buy and burn, there's no liquidity, there's no nothing. And this is kind of coming back. The core problem that TitanX was trying to solve is to build something that scales liquidity and buy pressure together with the network. So TitanX can be looked at as a business, where if there's no new customers coming in, yes, it's going to suffer. So that's why we need to get the community to a point where it's big enough, where it hits critical mass, where the network actually kind of grows. And even if miners become unprofitable, which is a big F, then you still have the proof of burn element, which basically will make it a deflationary token. So Hyper could continue to keep burning it. There's a lot. Like if TitanX is not profitable for mining, the TitanX token in and of itself will be very valuable.
Yeah, because
there's a lot of utility that
nobody's mining it, and it's scarcity.
Exactly, and it's already very scarce. Like Zen works differently. Zen has kind of a reverse exponential where it actually goes higher and higher, and people can mine more and more because the days go out, and then it becomes scarce like 5 to 8 years in. Titan starts becoming scarce from day 2. So it's kind of the opposite, because value comes through scarcity, not through abundance. Yeah.
Nice. No, I like that. So you mentioned early on that you've got some tricks up your sleeve pertaining to the liquidity pool. One thing that isn't in the white paper is the one-time smart contract mint of, what'd you say, 250, 350 billion Titan to go into the liquidity pool straight away. 2 questions. 1, why isn't that in the white paper? And 2, how quickly is that deployed? And are there any other side contracts that exist that might put Titan into, let's just say, your pocket?
So the simplest way to explain the buy and burn is one of the issues that we try to solve is when you look at the Zen chart. The Zen chart starts at the top and then goes to the bottom, which is not a chart we want to have. So the only way you can decide the day one price is by you creating the initial liquidity pool. Now, we try to make this as decentralized as possible. So I never actually touch the funds that create a liquidity pool. It's all done through smart contracts. And I have no way of accessing that. It's just a public callable function. The buy and burn has a one-time permission. It's only a one-time callable function to mint 350 billion TitanX and pair it with 2080 liquidity and create the initial liquidity pool so that the chart starts at the bottom and goes to the top to the buy and burn. And a lot of people, because it pretty much starts at the $0 market cap, and anything that starts at a low market cap, people start buying up, even if they don't know what it is. So you'll see the chart will look like this instead of like this at the start. And that is by design. And the only way to do that is by you having control over the initial ratio in the liquidity pool. If that makes sense.
No, it does make sense. The one thing I love about the bear market is that the people that are upset for a long period of time. We are 50 minutes into the chat or into this live stream, and there's still people in the chat like being negative. It's like, why are you still here if you don't believe in it? Like, it's so funny to me. But the big question that keeps coming up is, oh, it's a Ponzi. It's just a way to put money in your pocket. So it's a fair launch. You have this one-time smart contract meant to create a liquidity pool.
And that's locked. That's very important. The liquidity pool is locked. There's no way of accessing it. So the way it works on Uniswap v3, so the 350 billion Titan and 28 Ethereum gets put into a Uniswap v3 pair, and that is represented by an NFT. This NFT is owned by the buy and burn smart contract and has no admin keys of any kind to access the liquidity. So it's basically locked liquidity. That's a very important point.
Okay. Is that locked contract going to be available on whatever DeFi Llama or some of the other sites that show what pairing is in the liquidity pool, how long it's locked for, all this type of stuff?
It's not going to show up as locked because it's owned by the smart contract.
Okay.
It's not technically locked, but there's no way in hell to access it, pretty much. So it's considered locked, but it's not like using one of these locking tools or whatever.
Got it. Okay. Are you going to make the code open sourced after it launches?
So this is interesting, right? It's going to be source available so people can verify it and read it on Etherscan, but I don't want anybody to copy it. So we're putting a license on it where if anybody copies, we can sue them into oblivion.
Okay.
Because I spent all of my time and money building it, and if somebody copies it, you bet your ass I'm coming after them. So it's going to have a license where nobody can actually. It's not open source; it's source available. That's a very big difference. So source available means that anybody can look at the code, anybody can verify what it actually does. It's readable on Etherscan, but it's not allowed to be copied or used for commercial purposes.
Gotcha. Is when source available, does someone have to contact you to get it, or it's there but you just can't copy it?
It's like Uniswap v3 contracts. They were like locked for 2 years where nobody was allowed to copy them.
Okay.
It's kind of like that, but indefinite. It's like Hex. Hex is the exact same. So we're basically doing the Hex style IP ownership.
So after it launches, people will be able to access the code and see if there was any funny business that happened straight away.
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah, it's all on Etherscan. When you go to read contract, all the contract code is going to be in there for the core contract and the buy and burn contract. So people can verify everything.
Okay. And the reason why I bring that up is because so many comments saying, oh, it's just a way to put money in your pocket. You're going to be funneling some off to the side and stuff like this. So the fact that you're going to make the code available will essentially shut that down or prove them right. Time will tell. Okay. So where are my other questions? Oh, there's a 3% Genesis wallet. What is that and why is it necessary?
Yep. So the Genesis wallet, essentially, so you should have no expectations of the Genesis wallet for legal reasons.
Mm-hmm.
But if you look at the Zen ecosystem, for example, another big issue that we identified is any project that launches on top of Zen, for example, Zendoge or TD Zen or whatever it might be, they end up going to zero because there's nobody supporting the liquidity. And the only person that can build a liquidity pool big enough to keep it valuable is a benevolent whale that doesn't care about losing money.
Right.
The only way to do that is to have some kind of, you can call it a treasury or of some kinds, where they can actually build big enough liquidity pools where the protocols can actually survive. And the only person that can do that is a benevolent whale that has enough money that he's willing to lose. That's all I'll say on the Genesis wallet. But people, it's transferring this on the blockchain. It's not like the Genesis wallet goes to some offshore anonymous blockchain. It's all on chain. So people will be able to verify what Genesis does.
And that's one reason why I am actually happy you're building on Ethereum, because Ethereum has all of these tools available to identify everything. A lot of questions have come in. Why didn't you build on Pulse Chain? And or you said you were originally going to build this to burn Zen. Why didn't that happen? Here you are on ETH, and we know ETH is expensive. Why are you on ETH? I personally understand that, but I would like to hear your explanation, please.
So a mental model I kind of built is every chain is pretty much just a splinter of the Ethereum community. Polygon, Solana, Pulse Chain, it's all the same users. It's just all a splinter of the Ethereum users. Because Ethereum is the big daddy chain. Like, for example, if we launch on Pulse Chain only has like 8 million a day in volume. Even if we get 10% adoption on Pulse Chain, that's only 800 grand a day. But even if we only get 1% of adoption on Ethereum, that's $10 million a day. So it's a lot better to focus all of your marketing efforts on one chain, which is the big daddy chain that you know is going to be around forever, which is Ethereum. And has all the tooling built around it. And there's now L2s launching on Ethereum. So Ethereum will stay.
Yeah.
Ethereum is pretty much where all the money is.
Marketing 101, target the money.
Yeah, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Go where the money is. Okay, man, I'm running out of questions. Rewards. One of the conversations in your stream yesterday talked about reward payouts. And, I may have misunderstood it. Most things are my fault. But I want to clarify on the question is, are the dividend payouts or the reward payouts only to stakers, or do they also go to miners?
Stakers only.
Stakers only. So if I have a 280-day miner running, I get no rewards until that mine ends. I claim it and stake it. And then I have to wait the 30, God, it's in the white paper, but the time frames for the payouts.
Yep. Yeah, pretty much. And this is done on purpose because you want to, yes, it's a mineable cryptocurrency, but you also want to give people lots of reasons to buy on market. Another reason to buy on market is if you want to be part of the staking payout pool. So you would have to buy TitanX off a market if you don't have time to mine it to become part of the staking payout pools. So there's also another incentive for people to actually buy on market and become part of liquidity.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that made more sense. I probably just misunderstood yesterday.
Well, you're not the first one, so I think I need to
clarify.
Work on the wording a little bit.
Yeah. Rewards are only given to stakers. Okay.
Yes.
Period. Gotcha. Let's see. Here's a flip the script. Can the buy and burn reward dumping? If there's always somebody there to buy,
yes.
The short-term thought process is like, hey, I'll do an 8-day mint or a 30-day mint, and there's going to be 28 ETH in that pool that's ready to buy it up.
Yeah, but that's the interesting part, right? If people try to do the arbitrage game, they actually fuel the liquidity pool because all of that stuff goes to stakers and buy and burn, etc., etc. So by people trying to play the arbitrage, they're actually pushing up the system. And then if they dump into the liquidity pool, the TitanX that they dump will get bought up by the buy and burn. It basically all bad actors benefit all the good actors, which is usually a very good design principle.
I see what you're saying. So if somebody dumps on Uniswap, they're basically giving it to the liquidity pool that the buy and burn is then just going to remove from circulation by buying it and burning it.
Yeah, and you want both sides of the pair to grow to get a balanced liquidity pool. So you want the TitanX side to grow by people selling, and you want the Ethereum side to grow by the buy and burn. So it needs to grow together. So people can sell if they want. It's totally fine.
Okay. You're going to put this in the exotic 1% pair of V3. So It also kind of incentivizes people to provide liquidity.
Yes, exactly. And this is by design. I think there's going to be two main ways of earning yield with TitanX. One is going to be staking, and then the other one is going to be liquidity providing, because we did the 1% pool on purpose. because it's very, very attractive if you have a high volume 1% pool for liquidity providers. So it's done on purpose.
Okay. Man, I'm crossing off questions like mad here. Oh, the buy and burn contract. Is that automatic or does that have to be called?
It's callable by users. So there's a section on the dApp where you can actually trigger the buy and burn. And you get a portion of the Ethereum in the buy and burn to cover your gas fees for calling it. So it's a decentralized, publicly callable function.
Okay. So when the smart contract, and let's talk about this for a second. So Titan goes live, and when it goes live, it's the minting only. There is a function in the smart contract that once the smart contract has 28 ETH, is that it? That a liquidity pair is created at that point, and that's paired with the 250 billion Titan that's coming out of the one-time mint.
Okay. So 350 billion Titan.
350, excuse me, 350 billion. That's going to the liquidity pool. The buy and burn contract won't start buying and burning that until somebody calls it on the webpage, is that, or through the dApp?
Correct. Yeah, the buy and burn function needs to be called. The liquidity pool will manage that. It's publicly callable functions, but we know exactly when to call it and stuff, so we'll do it. But then the actual buy and burn users will have to call. And I'll probably call it as well, I'm just a user. But yeah, users have to call the function, and then the buy and burn goes and buys on Uniswap.
I want to dig in a little bit more to something you just said. You said we will call that.
Yeah, it's a publicly callable function on the buy and burn smart contract, so anybody can call it. But we want the pool to be available as early as possible, so we're just going to call it. Because otherwise, people have to look for the buy and burn, and they have to understand the functions, which one to call. So we're just handling it.
Is the initial liquidity pool, is that going to be, does that have to be done by your team to create that and then it's renounced, or how does that work?
No, anybody can do it.
No, I'm talking about the initial 350 billion Titan paired with the 28 ETH. Who creates that pool?
The buy and burn smart contract. So anybody can create that pool.
I'm confused.
By calling the function.
By calling the function. Okay, thank you.
Exactly.
I got you. So when you said we'll do that, you'll probably press the button the first time to create the pool, and then turn it. That's the detail.
But anybody could do it, but we know exactly what it is, so we're just going to press the button.
Gotcha. Okay. I'm running out of questions. Oh, last question. Yeah. You like that, lining it out? I feel like I'm in college again, which is weird because I actually didn't take notes or do well in college. It might come as a surprise to about nobody. Zen claim fees. The back end risk of really anything you have to claim later is the price of Gwei and Ethereum later. What is the fee going to look like for claiming Titan at the end of a stake? Or not stake, I'm sorry, at the end of a mint or at the end of a stake? Two good questions by accident.
Well, it's all the same. So none of it is actually very gas intensive, and we do that on purpose. So it's not like Hex where the longer out your stakes go, the more you pay in gas fees.
Yeah.
It's not how it works at all here. Basically, starting a miner, ending a miner, starting a stake, ending a stake is all less than a Uniswap swap comparatively. No matter how long it is, no matter how big it is, like it's very gas optimized, as optimized as we could get it, pretty much.
Okay, so you'll pay proportional to the rate of Gwei relative to essentially a Uniswap transfer, give or take a little bit. Uniswap.
Yep, exactly.
Swap. Yeah, okay, redundancies there. All right, dude, I think I'm out of questions. Let's see here. We talked about the law of unintended consequences, mineable scarcity, audits, liquidity pool, code arena claim fees. Mic drop, I'm done. Nice. A couple questions came up in the comments. If people have questions now, they're welcome to throw them in. First super chat of my return from retirement from Shaka Vibes. Thank you for being here today. Considering the significance of the protocol fee, how does Titan maintain its operation when the buy cost dips below the burning cost? If the burn stop, doesn't it all stop? Kind of like the question I said earlier, when/if people stop mining, the buy and burn runs out of funds to continue buying.
That's fine. It's just a token at that point. So people can stop mining. Like it's just it will temporarily halt the buy and burn. But if you look at Zen, for example, people are just buying it on market. There's a bunch of green candles on Zen. So it's not like the buy and burn is the only participant in the ecosystem or whatever. So we'll just operate like a token at that point.
And it will operate like a token at that point in an environment of a thick liquidity pool.
And a bull market.
And a bull market. Two things that are kind of important. Yes. Let's see. I'm going to go through a couple. We asked about the Genesis wallet. How was the Genesis wallet funded? I know I saw it in the white paper, but I'll just ask right here.
Well, that's the 3%. So the 3% of the Ethereum goes to the Genesis.
Gotcha. Okay. And it goes to the Genesis in the form of Ethereum only, or
yes, there's also a very small percentage of all the TitanX mineable that it gets, and I'll actually spill some Easter eggs here, because one of the other things that we'll do with TitanX is we want to be able to do dynamic airdrops to specific crypto communities, because having a good idea is only as good as the amount of people that know about it. So we'll also be running dynamic airdrop campaigns, potentially for the PLS sacrifice set, the PLSX sacrifice set, potential Ethereum DeFi protocol users. And this will kind of fund the airdrops to target all of the, I like saying DeFi native communities, because you need to be relatively well in the know for DeFi to kind of understand something like TitanX. And that's essentially, the Genesis wallet is also going to do stuff like that.
Okay.
That's kind of an Easter egg. So we have the dynamic airdrops. And also, if you look in the white paper, there's a mention of Hyper. I won't talk about Hyper now. That will kind of stay confidential until the launch of Hyper, but there's a lot. People all of a sudden are going to absolutely love the Genesis wallet after Hyper. That's all I'll say.
So there's something else potentially coming.
Yeah, the first burning protocol of TitanX is going to be Hyper.
Okay. I'm not going to ask about that because that's irrelevant at this time.
Yes.
Will you have a Zen Turbo type website so we can see the data and estimated supply, etc.? So
estimated supply is a hard one because we need to build a subgraph that can only be done on live contracts. So that will probably exist in the future. Right now we have a stats page that just shows you, okay, this amount is liquid, this amount is staked, this amount is buy and burned, this amount is burned by users, etc. So you have supply charts and stuff like that. But like on Zen Turbo where you have like future estimated supply and stuff, that will come later on once we have a live contract.
Any consideration to reaching out to CryptoCell Labs and seeing if they want to build something similar, since they already have it all, to follow Titan?
I would love that. I think those guys are awesome, but we'll have to see.
They're good people. Talk to them. Let's see. New Dawn Crypto. You've had this one up there for a while, but I'm just getting to questions. What do you think the best strategy is, Jake? Day one, buy and stake, max mine, combination of both?
I mean, if you want to maximize the system, we just do max miner. Long as you can, that's pretty much it. Another important note on the miners is the 0.2 Ethereum cost, or 0.5 a little bit later. That is if you have 100 power. So there's two variables you can manipulate in a miner. You have the length from 1 to 280 days, and then you have the miner power from 1 to 100. So if you do 100 power, it's 0.2 Ethereum on day one. But if you do 1 power, it's 0.002. So people can manipulate the power to get a lower price if they want. And then you get less Titan as well. But the cost per Titan you get at the end of your miner is the same. It's just for smaller people. If they want to get in with like 0.05 Ethereum, they can.
Okay. Nice. It's a Ponzi, just like DBZen was, except for this one's on steroids because of buy and burn. Well, what do you say to that?
I mean, anything is a Ponzi. The real estate market is a Ponzi. Businesses are a Ponzi. You need money from new customers to be able to operate the business for your older customers. Anything in life is pretty much going to operate like that. So that argument can apply to anything, even fine art collectibles.
I mean, it's kind of true. Everything is the law of the next greater fool. You just hope that it's like real estate's a Ponzi. I buy a house and I hope the next guy pays me more for it.
Right.
It does seem to be crypto is really thick on that. But the thing that I have learned over time, which has really changed how I approach crypto, is what matters the most is the liquidity pool. narrative, community, all this stuff is completely irrelevant if the liquidity pool doesn't support people exiting and trading in and out of on a regular basis. And I'll be very honest. I wasn't terribly interested in TitanX until I heard about your plans with the liquidity pool. And I was like, oh, okay. Now we have something. 28 ETH is more liquidity than pretty much any project in the Zen ecosystem had for quite some time. So that's important to know. Like if y'all,
and that's only the start. Like I could, because we ran models on this, right? The liquidity pool could be one of the biggest liquidity pools in Ethereum because of how the supply works in the Ethereum from the buy and burn. It's going to be pretty crazy.
Nice. Yeah, it very well could be. So another question coming in from Shaka Vibes. Have you conducted any tax research to ascertain whether the initial cost characterized as mining qualifies for write-off similar to BTC miners and ASIC miners?
We haven't done any tax research. I'm not a tax advisor at all. And the issue with like mining stuff is every country kind of qualifies it differently. So it's just, I don't know. I can't answer that at all.
Okay. Yeah, that's fair. Gabriel asks, can we talk a little bit about T rank bonuses?
So T rank bonus is essentially when you start a miner. So for example, there's a thing called the global T rank. Let's say 10,000 people started miner before. Well, there were 10,000 miners started before you because every miner has its unique T rank. Let's say there's 10,000 miners started before you. If you start your miner, you would get T rank 10,001. If by the time you get your miner, the T rank is at 12,000, you will essentially get a T rank bonus based on your T rank plus the current T rank when you end your miner. And this kind of acts like a global referral program where everybody's incentivized to talk about it because the more miners come in, there's more buy and burn, there's more staking yield, everybody gets T rank bonuses. So it's like a global referral program to get everybody to feel good about talking about it. Because this is another design thing that we fixed with Hex, for example. The way Hex works is you actually kind of don't want to onboard people if you just stake it, because the staking pool is only so big. And if you get other people to stake, your percentage of the staking power is actually smaller. So you're actually disincentivized to refer other people because they will be eating from your staking payouts. Because if more people are in the pool is the exact same size. So the more people in the pool, the less the people in the pool get. So this T-rank bonus idea came from, because in crypto it's kind of sketchy from a legal perspective to have a referral program, but a global referral program, there's nothing wrong with that. And this is kind of where that comes from.
Sure. It incentivizes marketing, essentially.
Yep.
All right. Well, other than the constant chattering of, let's see, Yuta Hexagon. Good to see you here. I don't see anything that's adding additional questions or bringing additional value. Let's see, John Schneider. Longer term benefit of Titan is ETH yield plus ability to build on top of it. So one question did come in. Why would somebody build on top of Titan instead of just building on top of Ethereum?
Because they suck at marketing and they can't build their own community. So the one benefit on building on top of TitanX is you're adopting an existing community that already likes TitanX. It's like, for example, Ethereum doesn't really have a community. It's just a blockchain. There's no real cult behind Ethereum. So by burning TitanX, you will instantly adopt a big portion of the community if they want to participate in your protocol. So the community is basically the asset for the proof of burn stuff. Now, frankly, we don't need people to build on top of TitanX because we're building on top of it. But if people want to do it, they can do it. The proof of burn function was actually initially designed for us, for Hyper.
Gotcha. That's one thing Zen did a really good job of. It bootstrapped other communities. And that works out well because, like you said, and I know it's one thing Crypto Bro pointed out also, is just like people don't know how to market, people don't know how to get out there. Well, where can you go that there's already a community of diehard people that want function for their token? Like if you can bootstrap Bitcoin, all these people wait and have all this Bitcoin, and if you can turn it into some sort of utility token, man, it would do really well. So I mean, I understand that answer. Absolutely. I like how you said it too, because people suck at marketing. Yes, Bad for Sports says, or B4D Sports. I've always said Bad for Sports. I don't know why. life itself is a giant Ponzi scheme. Yeah. That seems to be the biggest criticism here. And, it is what it is. Let's see. Beyond simply taking a long position, what are some of Jake's favorite strategies that he has come across in discussion? That's true. You've had several discussions around this. What are some of the strategies you're hearing that are unique?
So there's a couple. You could buy on market, but if you buy on market, especially at the start, you want to trade it like a trading position because most of the supply comes into existence, etc. So you kind of want to get in and out if you do the trading game. The safest game by far is mining. And then there's a couple strategies when it comes to mining. Because with mining, everybody has roughly the same price floor and then it moves up over time. Is you can do mining ladders. So for example, if you want to deploy, let's do 10 Ethereum, for example. Here's what I would do. This is not financial advice. You would do a mining ladder. So for example, you would do 2 Ethereum for all 60-day miners, 2 Ethereum for 100-day miners, 2 Ethereum for 150-day miners, 2 Ethereum for 200-day miners, and then 2 Ethereum for 280-day. So you would kind of build out a mining ladder and go do that. And then for the maxing chats, you just do 280-day max miners. That's by far the safest strategy. But yeah, people can also buy and play the trading game because there's going to be a lot of volume on the pair.
One thing I like about how you've built this out is that let's say in 250 days, people stop mining, or even sooner. Call it 100 days. There still is going to be a payout for the 369-day mint because that pool is there. And now, if more and more people do it over time, the payout is diminished, but it doesn't just disappear entirely. It still incentivizes you to stick around, and then hopefully by that point, the bull market is back, and it's it's scarce, and people are trading it.
Yeah, for sure. Like the price is going to drop 50%, 70%, 80%, 90%. Like that is part of crypto. Like so, the chart will do chart things. There's no chart you can design where it doesn't dip. I would love for that to exist, but yeah, that doesn't exist. So yeah, obviously there's going to be a lot of volatility, especially during the initial supply creation, but it's going to be just fine. I have to be very careful as a founder to talk about price predictions and stuff, but my models look very good.
Yeah, I mean, it's not even worth doing because there's always somebody that's like, well, he said it's going to do this, and then they spend the rest of their day crying about it, or they sit on somebody else's stream for an hour and 15 minutes and continuously say negative things in the comments.
I mean, the comments are crazy, man.
Like, if there's something I'm not interested in, I don't give it any time or attention. Like, why would I do that?
Right.
But it's the sad state of crypto. I mean, there was a joke, or I saw something today on Twitter where somebody's targeting all these coins, turning them into the SEC. And I kind of thought, like, if your crypto position is in such despair that your last punt hope that you're going to make money is to get a payout from the SEC, you've probably done it wrong. Good time to just exit.
Right. I mean, I try to do TitanX as legal as possible by doing the fair launch angle. Because the SEC, like the main people that they're targeting for good reasons, is just illegal ICOs, pre-sales, all of that stuff, because that's an illegal securities offering. Because it's a common pool that people put money in with the sole expectation of profit from the work of others, the project that is building it. So by just launching code on a chain, there's absolutely nothing illegal about launching a cryptocurrency. It is absolutely illegal to do a pre-sale or an ICO or a sacrifice. That's something completely different. But like just having a token, there's nothing illegal about that.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny to watch some of the people. So last questions. Yeah, a lot of people here. It's entertaining. Any initial launch on a test net for a specific duration of time before going to the live network, just so people can get familiar with the dashboard and aren't trying to stumble through it on day one?
Nah, it's just going to launch on mainnet. So the reason I think testnets are generally useless, the only thing they actually test is the UI, but we've done a lot of UI testing, is if you want to really test a smart contract, you can't do it on a testnet, because for something like TitanX's example, you need to be able to manipulate the block timestamps to go forward 5 years in time and see how the smart contract operates like 5 years later. You can't do that on testnet. Like if you have a 7-day testnet period, you only test 7 days of the smart contract, which is useless testing. Yeah. So it's kind of like, I understand it, but it's fine. We did a lot of UI testing because that's the only thing testnet tests is like the UI.
And then is there a sense of urgency? This will be my last question. Is there a sense of urgency when it launches? Like, oh, I want to be the third guy, or I got to be, before number 10,000 or 1,000 or 100,000 to get in. Is there a need for people to panic and do it really fast, or can they just, chill, play with the UI, make sure they get everything right, click the buttons, stuff like this, so they don't make a mistake or pay too much in gas?
I don't think the gas is going to spike. Maybe a little bit, but it's not based on gas, so it shouldn't spike that much. Like if it's 8 Gwei at the time of launch, it might go up to 15, I think.
Sure.
But no, if you're starting miners, as long as you're in during the first day, your mining payout is locked in, and then it starts reducing. But as long as you start your miners during the first 24 hours, like there's no real benefit of being like number one in that. If you want to buy on market, that's a whole different perspective. But I'll leave that up to the traders. But like mining, there's no real rush. Like if you do it within the first day, you're golden.
Okay. That's what I was curious about, is just the first day. You're not going to lose out, because with Zen, there was the early adoption amplifier, which as more people went in, it got lower and lower and lower. And so there was a sense of urgency. And I mean, I even remember being there, and I paid way too much damn gas fees because I wanted to be early. And you know what that got me? A less profitable mint, which was just dumb. Hindsight's everything. If you don't learn from your lessons, you're not doing it right. So, all right, man. With that, I'm done. And this has been great. I'm going to have you back on before this launches, because I'm sure I'll have more questions. I'll be watching the streams that you do with other people, as I'm sure they will generate interest as well. More to learn here. My impression as it stands is I like the sounds of it, which is not an endorsement. It's not financial advice. If you listen to a random dude on the internet, you get what you deserve. And from there, we're going to wrap it up. Any final comments?
No, I could give a security tip that I gave at the Verge live stream yesterday. Yeah. Is we designed the smart contract to not have custody of anybody's coin. Like, for example, of anybody's TitanX, when I mentioned coin. For example, when you stake, there's very important design principles where you actually burn your tokens and remint them with your own private keys at the end of the stake. So it's never held custody by the smart contract. The only thing that is held custody by the smart contract is the Ethereum for the payout cycles until they're paid out to users. So what I would highly recommend is, what will happen is, let's say you start a stake on day 7 and you get the day 8 payout. That day 8 payout gets registered in your wallet, and you have to go to the dApp and claim the Ethereum. Once you claim the Ethereum, it goes from the smart contract to your wallet, which means that if anything happens to the smart contract, I tried my best to make it as secure as possible, but if, God forbid, anything happens, the Ethereum is in your wallet, so it doesn't get drained. The only custody the smart contract really has is the Ethereum for the payout cycles. So as long as you're claiming your Ethereum on a regular basis, you reduce your risk by a lot, because they can actually drain your coins because the contract has no approvals on anybody's coins.
Yeah, that's fantastic advice. And it's even good for the protocol as a whole for people to do that, because then there's not this giant honeypot of ETH sitting there targeting people to come and try to hack. 100%. So always take your yield and keep it in your private wallet. So, all right, buddy, this has been great. I appreciate your time. Thank you for everybody that was here today. Thank you, Shaka Vibes, for the super chats. We will do this again before launch. And until then, have a wonderful day.
Talk soon.